I'll call the meeting order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
We have a motion by Councilmember Mock
I'll second.
and a second by Councilmember Sayer. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, community comment. We have no one in here from the community, nor does it look like we have anybody on tonight's Zoom. So we will move along. There are no presentations and reports. We do have a public hearing, so I will make the motion to open the public hearing. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
And a second by Councilmember McKnight. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, Ms. Smith.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, the public hearing is for a drainage and utility vacation. So that's a lot of words to say. It's largely procedural at this point. So for Timber Creek, as part of Phase 2, which has been final platted, there was an area that they needed for a temporary pond to allow for construction of some lots. Those lots have now been constructed, and the area of the pond is considered tonight as Phase 3 of the final plat. So it's turning an area that was a pond, which needed a drainage and utility easement, into lots. So before we can make those lots final with the final plat, we need to do this vacation process to get rid of that drainage and utility easement that was recorded with the property. Notice was read in the Chaska Herald. I don't believe we received any public comment. It's not something that's usually super controversial. You can see on the screen right now, the area on the left is where Outlet C was. That's that temporary pond. The drainage and utility easement fell over that area. And then on the right, there's a snip from the final plat we'll be considering tonight showing where those lots will be. So again, it's turning that area that was a temporary pond, was encompassed with the drainage and utility easement to allow us to plat those lots with Timber Creek Phase 3.
Was the utility easement required because of the pond or for some other reason?
I believe it was just for the pond, but I'll
Yeah, there was a temporary pond that they constructed, and then in Phase 2, they constructed the permanent pond and outlet system, so there's no temporary system there. No,
Okay.
there's no need for it anymore.
So there isn't any need to replace this drainage and utility easement somewhere else?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, let's see. I am going to just ask and see if there are any public comments. But again, as we'd mentioned earlier, there isn't anybody here and there isn't anyone on the Zoom. So with that, after all public comments are received, if any, the public hearing will be closed and no further comments on this issue will be received at this meeting. So again, asking if there are any public comments. So with that, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion by Councilmember McKnight,
I'll second.
and a second by
Councilmember Mock.
Sorry. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, any additional comments or questions from council?
No.
All right. No. Okay. Then I would entertain a motion to adopt the resolution.
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 104-23, vacating a drainage and utility easement.
Motion by Councilmember McKnight,
I'll second.
and a second by Councilmember Mock. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right. Moving right along to the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Got a motion by Councilmember Sayer,
I'll second.
and a second by Councilmember McKnight. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right. We are just zooming through this. All right. Business items 8.1, Timber Creek Phase 3. Ms. Smith.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Like I alluded to in the public hearing for the drainage and utility vacation, we are considering Phase 3 for Timber Creek. So a little bit of context of where we are. We're directly west of Carver Elementary, west of Copper Hills, This area was annexed into the city when preliminary plat went through, I believe in early 2021. So through the process, we are through phases 1 and 2. Phase 1 included the townhome area, so 74 townhomes, 49 single-family lots. With phase 1, we additionally received parkland dedication credit in the form of land for the expansion of Ironwood Park, roughly 3 acres being added to Ironwood, which is under construction right now. Phase 2 was 68 single-family lots, and the phase tonight that we'll be considering is an additional 40 single-family lots. So as part of this process, we asked Lennar to put together a phasing plan just so we could start to get an idea of where we are, what's left, how they're moving through the project. So you'll see in blue was phase 1. So again, the 74 townhomes, Ironwood Park, 49 single-family homes. Phase 2 was 68 single-family homes, so that was the connection into Copper Hills. So along River Rock Drive, I believe, and then just south of Ironwood. And additionally, in the northwest corner of the site. Phase 3 is in yellow, so it's the 40 additional single-family lots, so it ties in nicely to both phase 1 and phase 2. They have future addition on there in the areas that are not part of the phases right now. If I had a crystal ball, I would anticipate seeing probably 2 more phases for the project, so I think in total we might see 5. I think 4 will be the remainder of the site that's currently adjacent to lots, and then the additional last phase might be the southernmost portion, which has been the trickiest area to lay out. So that is my crystal ball. I don't know if that will happen, but that's what I think today. So final plat, what are we looking at tonight? It's the last step in review by the Planning Commission and City Council. For the City of Carver, we generally like to see little deviation from preliminary plat. That's typically when we hammer through details with the development engineer, our staff as well, just to make sure that we're getting the project to a point at preliminary plat where we all feel comfortable with the details. So there's little deviation from the time of preliminary plat to phase 3. The development agreement is included in the packet, which is a little bit of a new process for us, but shows you, as Brent might say, how the sausage is made on some of the agreements that we make through each development. So the DA covers things like city fees, construction expectations, warranties, timelines, etc. So it's a little bit of a catch-all for if something terrible were to happen, we likely have it covered in our DA and in the letter of credit that we hold. So we take the entire project budget, their engineer's estimate, and we hold 125% of that project total. So with the help of the DA and the letter of credit, should something happen, we're able to step in and complete the public improvements. The DA is signed by both the city and the developer, and once that's signed, work can begin in earnest. I will add, as part of phase 3, for the 40 additional lots, there's park dedication funds of $162,800 being added to our park dedication fund, so it ties in nicely with some of the discussions we were having in the work session related to Creekside Park, as well as other park projects moving forward. So some site details. The project has already, the entire site has been zoned to a PRD, so a planned residential development. That was largely driven because it's a mix of housing types, so it's the single-family homes as well as the townhomes, so none of our straight zoning districts allow for those 2 products to be together without a PRD. Something that is interesting about this site too is just the vast amount of open space. So you saw there's a large Timber Creek area that will be held in public outlot with a city trail, likely to be considered with phase 4 of the project. Net density hits at 3.1 units per acre, which we need for the Met Council, which asks us to hit at about 3. The PUD standards are pretty typical for what we see in Carver. It matches the zoning of Meridian Fields, Oak Tree, and Copper Hills, so all neighborhoods directly adjacent. Next on the screen are the formal platting documents. So between these 2 slides, it shows the 40 lots with the drainage and utility easements on each lot, as well as street layout. Some samples of what Timber Creek homes are looking like. So the townhomes, if you haven't been out there recently, I would say go check them out. They're coming up pretty quickly, so an idea of what homes might look like throughout the project. Again, looking at the phasing map, so if you have any questions, we can have quick reference back to it. And then tonight, there's a resolution in your packet for phase 3 of the final plat, and then we'll additionally ask for a motion to enter into the development agreement for phase 3 of Timber Creek. I am ready for questions or comments.
Right, questions?
I have a question on the developers agreement. Do we do a separate developers agreement for each phase, or do we add on to previous developers agreements that are the previous phases. I guess my underlying question, is there anything different about this developers agreement than the other phases?
Oh, that's such a good
already
question tonight.
It's a great question.
Okay, you start and then you start and then I want to take it.
Sure.
Okay.
We do a different brand new development agreement for each phase because
Okay.
it only covers the property located in that plat that's being developed.
Okay.
And in this case, the development agreement is very similar to the phase 2 DA. There are some differences because there are just some natural deviations that have to be made because of the size of the development and certain things like easements that we need to get.
Sure.
We have to get an easement in this case over some offsite property. But overall, the framework, I would say, is very similar.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
So this is the only time in my life you might see me excited about a development agreement. Those two really enjoy working on them. I think it's a lot of details. But as part of some discussions we've had previously, the council asked us to explore the idea of a building permit escrow, where we would potentially hold money for each lot for things like sidewalk. So if a sidewalk got cracked, we'd be able to step in and fix that sidewalk when a home closes. We also have had conversations with things related to landscaping. So when people get sod and the trees planted and then their driveways poured. So we were asked to work together to figure out, should the city hold X amount of dollars for each lot to make sure that all of those things were done. We think we've come up with a creative solution, and we've vetted it with Lennar through this development agreement. This is our first time checking it out. I'm totally giving away, I think, our next work session because it's a topic upcoming. So we'll give you some more of the details there.
Work session.
But we were able to come up with an approach that Lennar was able to say, yes, that works for us. And it also gave us some assurance for some escrow purposes should we need to move forward if a sidewalk gets cracked. So if your home gets built, you've moved in, but then your neighbor is coming in and one of the trucks cracks your sidewalk, what happens? Who's responsible?
Oh, yeah.
So we're exploring that just because those are really tough complaints and it's tough to figure out who's responsible at that point. So vetted it through this process, a good preview for our next work session discussion.
Can I piggyback off
Go
of that
right
question?
ahead.
So you mentioned sod. We saw those sod timelines and deadlines within 30 days after the occupancy permit. That's new, and that's something that we've never had.
No, we typically have it in there, and it's just to allow for winter months too.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't have anything else.
Anything?
No, I just have a comment to thank the commissioners on the planning commission for, reviewing it, making comments, and then looked like it was a 5-0 vote to recommend approval. So thanks to them for their time.
All right.
I don't have any.
I don't have anything.
I would got a couple of motions to get through. I'd entertain either one.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 105-23 approving final plat.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilmember Sayer, second by Councilmember McKnight. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right.
I'll make a motion to enter into a development agreement for Timber Creek Phase 3.
I'll second.
Again, we've got a motion by Councilmember Sayer and a second by Councilmember McKnight. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, thank you. Up to 8.2, the sanitary sewer ordinance. Shooty, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Council and Mayor. I feel like I haven't been here in a while, so nice to see everybody. So tonight we're talking about our sewer usage rates and possibly amending an ordinance that calculates that rate. So currently, the city of Carver is billing sewer usage as an average of the January, February, and March actual usage of sewer. And that is calculated based on your water usage. So for 9 months out of the year, the residents are getting billed for an average amount of sewer used. If a new resident moves in and we don't know what their usage should be, currently we are setting that average at 5,000. That's the same for a brand new home. That's just kind of been our standard. So one of the biggest complaints or calls that we get right now is newer residents that are moving in, they call and they say, hey, why is my sewer rate 5,000 when my water rate is X? Or why is my sewer rate so high? So actually today I just got an email and it was a resident who put their move-in date in November, but they actually didn't move in until January. So their bill for November and December had water usage of 0 and sewer of 5,000, right? Because those are actual usage, or, you know, it was average, right? So we had them at 5,000. So it was a real bummer of a situation. So in that case, you know, we work with the resident, but it's gonna, what I'm proposing in this ordinance change is that would fix that. So that was just one example that I would like to share with you guys. So what we're proposing is we would charge residents their actual sewer usage for 6 months. And those 6 months would be November through April. And those are more of the cooler months, I guess you could say. And then they would be charged an average for May through October. And this would benefit during the hotter months when you're doing a lot more watering of your lawn and your gardens. This is a very common practice throughout the United States, actually. I've done a lot of research on this. And there's a lot of different names for it. Some call it the summer sprinkling program, or summer sewer average, or summer sewer max. So it's very common in the Midwest, especially. So calculating it based on 6 months of actual is giving that resident a much more accurate average. And so it's just beneficial. It's taking the bulk of the water that's used in the summertime. It's not actually running through the drains. And so it's giving them that benefit as well. So I'm proposing that this change, if it's adopted, would go in effect immediately, because right now we're in those actual usage months, January, February, and March. And so residents wouldn't see this change until April. So we would get advertising on this right away. We would get the promotion, get the word out there right away. We would Facebook, newsletter, and let people know about the change. And I do think that it would be a really positive change in the utility bill process for the city of Carver. So with that, I would take any questions that you might have.
Questions?
I just want to make a comment. You've done an excellent job of explaining the benefits of this. I want to make sure what you presented here is captured in those community communications, right? I've seen some comments, because this was on our agenda, about like, this is the city trying to charge us more and kind of things like that. But you presented it in such a logical way that we're trying to get more accurate usage. And we have a lot of new residents coming in as well that are experiencing just what you described, that scenario of moving in and being charged and not consuming. So, and the research that you've done, that it's a very common practice. So please make sure those points are included in the resident communication.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on that, so that when we have the communication go out to the public, that it states all of the things that you have just brought up, because I think, again, we've seen some grumbling on social media, and I think it's lacking some content there. So I think if we put the content out, I think it will make much more sense to the masses and the public. So thanks for your hard work, and I think this is actually a really great way to be moving forward.
Yeah. Let's see. Do you want to go?
Yeah, I definitely support it. I love the idea of a certain part of the year, the average, a certain other part of the year, what the actual is. I do have a question on the verbiage, only because usually we try to be super consistent. That first paragraph A, at first it refers to it as consumption, and then that's when we do the November through April. And then the other one just says water usage. Is there really a difference?
I can speak to that. I mean, if you want the two terms to be reconciled, I don't think there's any reason why we can't do that. If it's just a matter of stylistic preference, I think consumption and usage are probably.
I think they're used interchangeably, but I didn't want somebody else to interpret it different.
So is usage the one that you?
I think whatever we measure how much they used.
It's a synonym.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is, but
Yeah.
I don't want it to come back and have to rework this.
I think water consumption, because it runs through the meter, I think that might have been why I chose that. I guess I'm impartial, so.
Same, I would just like it to be consistent.
Okay.
So I
Do you want
guess,
more direction than that?
Yeah.
Usage
Yeah.
it is, usage.
Usage it is, yes.
Okay,
We'll just
cool.
go with usage. That sounds great.
Perfect,
Pick a
thank you.
word. Okay. That's how we wordsmith.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
No.
Okay. Echoing what everybody else has said, you've done a great job on this. What you said really, really makes sense. And editorial comment, it's a shame that folks who don't seek to ask any one of us in this room questions before grumbling about it on social media is a huge bummer, because we live in a world where if you see it on social media, it's true. Stepping off that soapbox.
And it's not true.
It's not true. But I think, you will find a way to weave that story in public posts and messages and all that kind of thing. And I think that that's great. I just wanted to, you said it, but because of this change, and because of what we're doing right now, effectively, nothing's going to change until April. Okay, and then in April, just like it's happened in January, February, and March, people are going to be paying for their actual usage. So I just want to be clear about that, because I think there was some question about that as well.
Okay. Yep.
And confirming that nothing changes from a
Right.
voting perspective until April.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, we don't have any other questions or comments.
No, I didn't comment, but I agree. I think people will appreciate that the calculation takes out watering their yard. I'm sure that's a thorn in everyone's side when they look at the sewer bill. I assume that the calculation for new residents is the same average, 5,000, and there's not a history to draw from, right?
That's
We're going to
correct.
continue to use that.
Yep,
Okay.
so we do get a lot of calls from new residents, so.
All right.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 02-2023, amending chapter 48 of the Carver City Code regarding sewer usage rates.
Got
I'll
a
second that.
motion by Councilmember Mock and a second by Councilmember Hirschman. Any further discussion?
just to clarify, I assume then you want the word usage to replace consumption before it gets published, is that right?
Yes.
in the
Yes.
sentence?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
just want to make sure.
Do we need to amend?
Do you want me to
A
amend?
friendly amendment is fine, if everyone's okay with it, nobody.
I feel
Yes.
friendly about it, yes.
Feel friendly about it too. Okay, nobody had any further comment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes. Okay, let's see. We did have one item from the work session that carried over, the strategic plan update. Mr. Merrick.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is, will probably be our last update on the strategic plan, the 2021 through 22. Happy to report that nearly all the items have been completed. There's some updates on some loose ends that we're tying up. So the water services guide, so really some excellent work being done by the team on pulling that together. We've gone through several drafts. I know even just today Chad had added some information. So the goal of that, and you'll see it before it's finalized, but the intent is to explain kind of the complexities and all the information, all the work that goes into providing water service. And I think, anecdotally, I think there's this sense of like that water is not as complicated as natural gas or electricity, but there are a lot of things that go into it, a lot of work that's done on a daily basis to test, a lot of pipes and valves and systems that convey that water, and all of it very particular, and all of it needed to be monitored and watched and planned for. And so this guide kind of is an attempt to kind of tell that story, because I think we've been missing that piece. And so excited to kind of finish up this rough draft and show it to the council at a future work session. We're still anticipating talking to the council about your appetite to look at large event permitting. So that's planned for later on this February. We've been working on that for several months, but I've just kind of punted that a little bit because we've had some other priorities for the council to consider and discuss. Aaron Smith has been working with the Planning Commission on design guidelines and zoning uses within the context of looking at the zoning ordinance. There's been 2 meetings on that, and Aaron is actually going to be at an upcoming work session kind of giving you a summary of those conversations that the Planning Commission has had. So to kind of give you a preview of what's to come as far as city council action and topics that are being discussed by the planning commission. And then just a kind of a final piece related to our next strategic plan. Department heads and I met with Craig Rapp earlier this week on a call just to start planning for your strategic planning process in April, or goal setting session. And one of the things that I think is really interesting, as you know, in the past we've gone through a process where each of the department heads is kind of given a presentation on kind of what they see now and kind of in the future state. And one of the interesting twists, Craig Rapp calls it an environmental scan, but one of the twists that we're planning that I think will be helpful to the council this year is we're putting that all together in one presentation that we'll give collectively, but we're going to provide that presentation at your Monday work session prior to the goal setting retreat. And so the intent of that is that you don't get all this information that morning and then you move right into like processing and action planning, that you'll hear it on Monday, you'll get staff perspective, you can ask some questions, but you'll have 2 to 3 days to kind of sit with those thoughts, and I think in the end be more prepared to have some really hearty discussions and debates on those topics rather than hearing them, processing them, and then acting on them in the same day. So we're looking forward to that new approach. So happy to answer any questions on items that I didn't talk about specifically within the context of the strategic plan.
Any questions?
No.
I love that idea of going over the
Yeah,
planning
I
like the
think-
day before, so it's not too much as you're,
Yeah, and plus
Your
it'll give
eyes
us
glaze
time
over.
to
Yeah.
noodle on it all, and yes, I like that.
like it. All right, thank you. Let's see, council member updates.
I have an update from the Southwest Transit meeting we had in January, some ridership updates. So Q4 of 2022, total ridership was up 21% compared to Q4 of 21. So continued recovery in ridership at Southwest Transit. And overall ridership in 2022 compared to 2021 was up 77%. So
Say that one more time.
So Q4 was up 21% year over year, quarter over quarter. But if you look at the whole year of 22, ridership was up 77% year over year.
Okay.
So continuing to go up, Southwest Prime broke the 500 passengers per month threshold 3 times, or per day, 3 times in the month of December. So they're starting to hit new levels and not slowing down in any growth. And so Southwest Prime is now averaging about 470 to 480 passengers a day, which is above the highest mark pre-pandemic in 2019, which was only 440.
And what areas does that cover? Is that just
So that's
Metro?
the whole Prime, all
Sure.
of their offering.
Okay.
So it's all Eden Prairie, Chan, Chaska, Carver, all the other areas they do, the 494.
Okay. So not just Carver County itself, it's the entire, okay.
It's their whole Prime offering.
Okay.
Yeah, the medical stuff, everything. And so they also did some really nice Prime rider surveys that were super detailed and had some great questions in it about who those riders are and what they use Prime for. And they had a really good response rate as well, because you never get a good response rate on a survey, but it was actually pretty high for a survey. So I felt like it was really good data. There was only about 4% of the respondents that were from Carver, but it gives you a perspective of who is the ridership of Prime. I asked that Southwest Transit share that detail with us, especially if we're going to talk about transit in our strategic planning, just to help educate us. The questions were really super interesting. So I learned a lot from it, and I thought we would all benefit from that. That's all I have.
All right. Is that all?
Yep, that's it.
Lori?
Well, my January Carver County Leaders Meeting was canceled, but the next scheduled meeting is in April.
All right. Chrissy?
There's no HPC meeting this month, again, but which is fairly typical because people are waiting for spring to get some of those projects outside done. So we don't have an HPC meeting. Brent, do you remember when the next fire board meeting is, or do we have it scheduled? So I can make sure it's on my calendar.
Yeah, I don't believe it's been scheduled, but we can ask for it to be scheduled.
I feel like it's in April sometime, but can we maybe get that on
Sure.
the books? I want to talk a little bit about Soggy Bottom because that was very recent, just a little over a week ago. It was unfortunate weather, so we had 30-something degrees for a month, and then it was our first day of 4 for the high, and I think that wasn't. So that didn't lend itself to as big as crowds as we normally have. We do have the heated tent, and then we have a bonfire and everything. So I appreciate all the people that showed up for it. We still made about $3,400 for each recipient. So those checks were just dispersed over the weekend and then today. So we're happy to help out. And then big thank yous, obviously, to the Carver Lions Club for helping out, Public Services, Chad and your crew. We could not do it without you, to the point where Chad and I will meet down there. We'll look at it. They'll do their work. We'll look at it again and do any tweaks. So it's just great. We couldn't raise this money for these families if we didn't have that help. And then Carver Fire and Rescue also, they come down to hang out for the day too, and they volunteer their time for that also. So and then we obviously have a lot of sponsors here in town and a lot of attendees who come down from town and the surrounding areas too. So that it was good. It was good. It was our 14th annual. Can you believe it's been 14 years? Yeah, I can't. But yeah, it's been 14 years. So. And then I was just going to, which we touched on before, talking about some of the social media chatter that has been going on. I would like to just invite anyone in the community who has a question, an issue, sees something online they're not sure of, to reach out to us. I guess I shouldn't say just we, I'll speak for myself with this one, but I'm pretty sure it carries over. I'm not always monitoring Facebook, and I'm not always seeing everything that everyone's seeing. And I don't tend to do all of my official business on Facebook or social media either. So I would invite anyone to call me, text me, email me. I'll meet with you, come to a meeting, or join us online so that we can make sure that the information that you are receiving is accurate and timely and forthcoming. So I'm sure that carries over to the rest of the council as well. But that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, so let's see, a bunch of updates from me. On January 18th, I did meet the mayor at Carver Ridge, and those folks always have really good questions, and they continue to be thrilled about 6th Street being improved, and they're looking forward to seeing the stripes and the bike lanes this summer. Let's see, there was a Minnesota Mayors Association meeting, which is the group through the League of Minnesota Cities, on January 20th. We also had the Carver Business Alliance meeting. And those meetings continue to have a decent turnout. Let's see, last week would have been January 24th. We had the chamber meet and greet. So they always have like coffee meet and greets at different businesses throughout the communities. And I think they try to do one of their meetings a month in Carver. So they were here. We had treats from the getaway, and it was lovely. Eric and I... I'm just realizing I completely.
That's okay. We'll get to it.
I'm so sorry. I'm all kinds of scattered tonight. I'm sorry. Eric and I went last week to the League of Minnesota Cities Race and Ethnicity workshop. We were there with Aaron as well, and that was a really good workshop. Soggy Bottom Open is also on my list, and Christy always does a really great job with that, and the Lions and everybody who participates in that. It's a good time, and I'm proud to say that I've never sports balled while I've been down there, but it's just fun to hang out and grab something to eat or grab a drink, so there's something for everybody. Connected with Commissioner Fahey last week at the coffee shop to talk about our levy project and just get him up to speed on that. Last Saturday was the Light and Seek Luminary Walk, which kind of the Legacy Funky Minds ladies put together. It was at the Rapids Lake Visitor Center this year, so a little bit further away from our kind of downtown footprint where it's been the last 2 or 3 years, but a really, really cool event, and they do such a great job. This year was the first time that they had community members freezing lanterns, and the weather that we had last week was absolutely perfect for that. Let's see, I have 2 new businesses opened in Carver since we last met, the Getaway Motor Cafe, which everybody's been looking forward to. It's been fun. I've been seeing everybody else's social media postings. They've got coffee, they've got drinks, they've got a little bit of everything. So, and then also Strains of the Earth, which is just our neighbor a couple doors down from here, which is the CBD store, and met their manager and talked to their owner, and they've got a nice business down there. So the only other thing that I have is next Saturday, I will have mayor's office hours here at City Hall from 9 until 11. So like Christy said, that's another one of those really good options where if you have a question or a comment or a concern, to come, or if you're saying, oh, I saw something and I'm just wondering more about it, it's a really good way. I like to think that between social media and mayor's office hours and putting my cell phone number on every email that I send out to anybody, that I'm pretty available. So just want to throw that out there. So my apologies.
No, I have a pretty minor update.
Okay.
So the last planning commission meeting was my first meeting as the liaison. One of the members, Greg Rigg, that was his last meeting, and we have some interviews coming up at the end of the month to fill the 2 terms that are ending. So really, we did a review of Timber Creek 3, but the most fun was Erin Smith did a zoning ordinance update, and she would make an outstanding teacher. If this job should not work out in the future, we covered variances, conditional use permits, and variances really got interesting, all the reasons why that is a challenge. So PRD, PCDs, I hope that she's going to export some of that training that we had to the council. I actually found it really interesting and beneficial. For some of the questions where we might be afraid to say, what is that? I think I got a pretty good handle on at least an education on zoning. The other thing, I want to comment on Christie's comments about social media. That was well said. I have my email address on the city website, and I also have my phone number on the website. And I'm a new guy here, so when you ask a question, I have not been afraid to ask city staff and learn a little bit more about your question. So please contact me.
That's
it.
not necessarily an exclusively new guy tactic. I think all of us probably are still like, ooh, Brent, I'm not sure what the answer is. And your analogy, I watched the planning commission meeting, your analogy of Aaron, and I've been meaning to pull you aside and tell you, like, you do such a good job of, like, truly making that fun and interactive, and people were laughing, and, like, it just looked like a really fun meeting. Everybody had a good, like, everybody was, like, calling out answers. You would make a great teacher, but stay here for a little while longer. So, with that, if we don't have anything else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Motion by Councilmember McKnight and a second by Councilmember Pershman. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Good evening.